There are endless Bitcoin podcasts. Most of them pretend they're always right. We don't. Bitcoin Tonight, live every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Club Underground. No scripts, no influence or hierarchy, no mercy for bad ideas. Some takes land and some don't. Some sentences should have stayed in our heads. You'll hear all of it live with us, HumbleWarrior, Mr. Ulric, and Phil. Plus, a chat that makes sure we know when we're wrong. If you're not here live, you're missing the point. And yes, you're missing the best part. Monday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Bitcoin Tonight. Catch us live. The replay, it's not going to hit the same.
Oof. Whole lot has happened in the last 72 hours, right? It's been pretty crazy. Welcome back. Bitcoin Tonight. That's right. Gonna have some fun. Time to reframe, pivot. We're gonna look at other stuff, right? Maybe it's AI tonight. Maybe we're gonna take a look at some updates from the state, some Bitcoin adoption, some he needs help. That's right, ACP. We're gonna do some bed of procrustes stuff. We're gonna stick Bitcoin in a box and we're gonna keep it there. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at the Jane Street stuff, and we're gonna take a look at some engagement farming. That's probably gonna be fun. I'm sure that's gonna be spicy. And Tucker talks CBDCs. That's right. I don't know if you guys saw that podcast with Tucker and Catherine Fitz from the Solari Report. Interesting stuff. All right. You know the deal, guys. We're going to dive into it. But first, how's it going, Ulric?
What's up, man? I'm
thought I was going to the ad.
you tricked me, but yeah, no, I mean you set me you set the stage, man. I mean, it's been a wild weekend, but my lights are green in the background, so that means Bitcoin must be better off than it was the day before. So I'm okay. And I think we're going to be okay.
All right. You're okay, I'm okay, we're okay. Let's frickin' do it. Here we go. Club Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium.
Oh man.
We're already getting it.
Huh?
I was gonna say we're already getting the comments.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna bring this. Look, I gotta say we're all gonna die. That is true. We are all gonna die, and we have to remember that, so we don't go down that influencer path that will lead us astray. Also, this Fitz woman. Look, I didn't say it, but maybe the energy that comes out of me at the end of this show will probably have me agreeing with Rourke right here.
Yeah.
I was stressed. Needless to say, I was stressed out listening to that, but we'll talk about when we talk about it. Look, and good morning. Are we rich yet? Look, I think we're going to start being rich starting tomorrow. Look, I brought this up last week or 2 weeks ago. The blood moon is here, guys. And if you guys don't recall, the next blood moon is on March 3rd, and the next one will be 2.5 years later. It'll be the largest gap in Bitcoin history. And just so you guys know, this is the chart for every blood moon, those red lines. So this is astrology hopium tonight, guys. This is astrology hopium tonight. And I promise you, every time there's a blood moon, something happens with the Bitcoin price. And maybe, just maybe, we've already experienced a precursor of that this weekend. And as you can see, this guy, Doji Crew, talked about the last blood moon, which was 11/8/2022, which coincided with FTX. So these are the next blood moons in the future. So set your trades, set your buys, set your sells. I think we're going to make it as long as we prescribe to the blood moon trading cycles, man. Look, Phil, do you not believe? I mean, we're the green lights in the back. We were 65 a few days ago. We're 69 now. I think it's time to admit the blood moon trading strategy is a real thing.
Okay, so look. So
this was not a part of the scheduled program. No scripts, guys, right? Just like Humble says.
Exactly. And we don't know anything. But look, when it comes to the astrology for Bitcoin and the astrology for any assets, right? I've seen some people nail it, right? I have seen that there's some people who claim to live by this and apparently trade by this. And what's really interesting is that there's even some really wealthy traders on, even on Wall Street that swear by this. Maybe not publicly in every forum, but secretly they swear by it. So look, I don't know what to tell you, but I will take this hopium considering the last what is it, 5 months? Is it just are we looking, is it like
let me pull
5
it back
months
up again? Hold on.
so kicked in the nuts?
So I mean, let's go
chart.
to the actual chart. So the last one was pretty much calling the top, which was, I guess, in October sometime. And so the next one will be in March, will be tomorrow. And you got to admit, those last 4 have really called. I mean, which one is not calling something? I'm trying to figure out.
I'm not talking about the blood moon stuff. It's just all of it, right? I'm talking about all the astrology because there's more than just the blood moon astrology. There's
there's a lot of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't all hit, right?
No,
but
there's a crypto girl. There's this real like this girl. She looked very pagan, and she was always pointing to like something's in retrograde, and people loved her. This was back in 21. I'm like, what the hell are people looking at? Like, this is what, just because some skinny girl in a some sort of like vampiric costume is telling you about some retrogrades, and she likes crypto, so all of a sudden she gets 50,000 likes or 5,000 likes. It was weird. She disappeared. Obviously she lives somewhere in Dubai.
She made her millions. That's it. But she made her millions. But look, it's the I believe it's Mercury in retrograde, and that stuff is real. Okay, this is where I'm getting into the magical thinking. For me, that stuff is totally real. Every time it happens, there's like a pattern to it, right? Like this particular Mercury in retrograde, you can't do any financial transactions. This particular Mercury in retrograde, don't do anything that has to do with like mechanical work. Look, I don't make the rules, man. I'm just trying to get through this.
Hey, 1111 has been following me around for 2 years, and I don't know what to make of it because it's not getting me any richer, huh?
The ones are good. Don't worry. The
ones are good, but it's not making me any richer. But maybe it's making me less poor. That's what I have to remember. Hello. Right? We're going to keep going. We have so much to talk about. AI tonight. Just a public service announcement. We don't want to stick to this one too long. Thank you for the adjustment, Phil. But we want to talk about, guess what?
Yeah.
AI is real, and these mega companies are treating it as real, at least for the moment. They're going to say, hey, we've invested in this. We're going to make it work. You see a bunch of layoff announcements, thousands of employees from multiple companies. And this is obviously a subset of all the people that have been impacted by AI, including, I don't know if Doge was really impacted by AI. Look, we know they're using it, but really they were inefficient anyways, whether AI was there or not. But we see Amazon laying off 5 figures, UPS laying off 5 figures, Intel, Citigroup. And we're just at the beginning. Look, we're going to get more efficient as we grow as a human species, and this is just par for the course. This hasn't. Maybe it's a little more. What would you say? Accelerated than before, but this is real. Phil, your thoughts on this slide before we move on?
Yeah, I'm looking to see. Okay,
and
block. Yeah, block is there.
Block was miscounted. That was 1,100. They in the reply they said
like 4,000,
41,000, 4,100 or 4,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're there.
I mean, look, it's a double-edged sword. Some of those jobs. I mean, look, I think because I was thinking about this. I think a very small percentage of those jobs actually do end up coming back. And the reason why I say this is because oftentimes at the beginning of trends like this, you see this over exuberance, right? People are trying to kind of rush, pile in, and even corporations, right? Like they're not immune to that type of behavior. They're going to do the same type of thing, because also at the same time, keep in mind that they're dealing with the public. They've got a public persona to keep up, right? So it shows, right? They're cutting edge. They're moving quickly, right? We're nimble.
AI too.
Yeah, exactly.
One
right?
day,
We're nimble.
companies will be saying, we have Bitcoin too, though. That will be when we want, guys. Not yet.
better companies will say that.
That's right.
Better companies than the ones that are saying
not
that.
Not the skeleton companies.
Yeah, not the with the no income. It's okay. We're not going to go down that road.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to make is that there's going to be a very small number of these jobs that are going to come back. However, I think, we're going to see these massive job losses, but maybe that gets more people to reassess what the point of our existence really is, right? Like, I know it's like a deeper philosophical issue. We're obviously not going to be solving that on this show or anytime soon, I think, necessarily in human history, but it's a conversation that's beginning. I think like it has to start happening, right? Because I don't know necessarily that going forward we're really going to necessarily be these kind of automatons that just go to work 9 to 5, like when you just don't need to, right? So life is maybe going to be a little bit more about living, right? So maybe we end up seeing that. But in terms of disruption, we're 100% going to see the disruption. We are seeing the disruption. I mean, look, I don't think we get to where we're going in terms of humanity without disruption. There's that, right? As cheesy as it is, right? It's pressure that makes coal into the diamond, and unfortunately, humankind, so to speak, must pass through the eye of the needle. So it's
not cheesy at all. I mean, Phil, it's actually biblical. I mean, at church this Sunday, referencing analogies in Scripture about refiner's fire, and that gold is refined by fire. So gold melts, and all the dirt rises up to the top, so that it can be sloshed off, and gold becomes more pure. Gold is purified because of heat, which is guess what? If you can't stand the heat, you get out of the kitchen. We understand all of those analogies and what they mean. This is a heating moment for humanity and certain industries. And I want to segue to this next chart where AI is, for the first time, or AI data centers are being built more rapidly, or at least more money is being spent on these AI data centers than commercial offices. And this was projected by Zero Hedge, maybe they said it's trending towards that maybe 6 months ago, and now it's past it for the first time. Look, this is another disruptive force where we've seen commercial real estate, we've seen office buildings go empty because of the COVID, work from home stuff. Even as people are trying to bring people back to work, my company is trying to bring people back to work. It's like pulling teeth. Maybe those people get fired because they refuse to basically abide by the rules of the company, but employees are calling bluffs. Companies are trying to put their foot down, but meanwhile, the money is going to where computers can run faster, smarter, harder, stronger. This is a chart that represents that. I don't think that's just going to turn over anytime soon, just because people want to have white collar jobs, archaic, obsolete white collar jobs. It's happening, right, Phil?
Yeah, it definitely is. And all of this AI stuff, right? It's got me thinking as well. It obviously requires massive amounts of energy, right? And when we take a look at I forget who it was that put up this chart, but showing essentially the energy generation, by country, right? By the most powerful nations. And of course you see China going all the way up into the right, freaking hockey sticking.
Per capita, they just passed Germany. So we talk about Germany, the center of engineering development, the center of engineering ingenuity, and per capita, people in China have more electricity generated than people in Germany.
So, and then you see the US kind of stagnant, right? You see the EU also similar, stagnant, down. So AI is also going to, I think as well, force us, as with, I think, all of our technologies to date have forced us to figure out how to either create more energy or at least how to create devices that use energy more efficiently or extract more out of the energy. So this is, I think it's just par for the course, right? And when we go back and we look, these buildings are empty anyways, right? Like let's be honest. If you're driving around and you're paying attention, like you realize how many for sale signs and rent signs and all of that is going on. Like this is not, this is not like some conspiracy. This is actually happening. So if we are moving towards this future and these businesses are able to afford to, house their data centers there, and also they're going to be paying for security services. They're going to be paying for services around those businesses. That's going to bring money back to the local economies there. So I don't, again, I just think a lot of times, like, people focus on all the terrible things that are destroyed, and we don't necessarily realize, unfortunately, this is the path of existence, right? Creation and destruction. It's as corny as it is, right? You take a tree and you make furniture out of it. You destroyed the tree. You made furniture out of it. Like, sounds terrible, but sometimes you got to explain that stuff for whatever reason.
People don't have multiple order thinking. That's why we have podcasts sometimes. And so we're gonna talk about how this adoption, this technological adoption has impacted Bitcoin. There's several slides that River put up. I figured, Phil, we'd go through them a little bit, touch on them, like figure out what's real, what's not. Try to be a filter that we are as a pleb underground. We have to remember that River's a business, and sometimes they're marketing their wares, their services, and so we have to take whatever they're saying with a grain of salt. No one's is ever purely objective. Everyone has their incentives, and of course River wants to be profitable. But look, let's go through these. Institutions are buying records amounts of Bitcoin. In my opinion, Phil, that's at the same time is individuals are selling records amount of Bitcoin. We know that the OGs, they saw 100,000 as pretty much their finish line. A lot of them dumped for treasuries, a lot of them dumped for cash, basically right off in the sunset. The institutions have picked up those bags. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing because someone wants the Bitcoin, but at the same time, you see that it's potentially more centralized. We see that these institutions, like we'll talk about with Jane Street, when they have Bitcoin, they say, hey, we have hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. By the way, we're shorting half of it, but we don't want to tell you that. So, it's not just they're taking it up as a store of value per se. They're financializing it, utilizing ways to create arbitrage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, BTC Boom guy, record amounts, isn't that almost nothing? Yeah, exactly, right. It's pretty much, it's relative. And as we're going to talk about later with Jane Street, to a certain extent, you can just do shenanigans without actually needing to hold the Bitcoin. Why? Because you're an authorized participant. So, this, and again, I try to balance my realism with my hopium as well. So, of course, seeing institutions want to buy shares that give them exposure to Bitcoin, yeah, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? Like, it's not something that I'm going to sit there and frown upon. However, I would like to see businesses that want to store their cash that they're not using by buying Bitcoin, if that's what they intend to do.
Right.
To me, like that just seems much more. It's all of these derivative products, all of this paper shenanigans. I know that there's a whole bunch of people out there that seem to believe that this is necessary for Bitcoin to succeed. It's not. This is just the bullshit that we're fed by people who are incentivized to feed us this. It's plain and simple, right? And again, anytime you see the Bitcoin price go up or something like that, based on one of these announcements, you say, you got people that sit there and you say, you see, look at that, right? Because of Main Street, Wall Street's accepting it. So that's why it's going up. If it wasn't for Wall Street, that's a load of nonsense. Bitcoin's qualities, as you know, don't depend on Wall Street. Wall Street has a completely, and I've said this 1,000 times, Wall Street has a completely different product. It's not Bitcoin. That product that they have, that is a wrapper. It's just like WBTC. It's just like the stupid buck token. It's just like all of that crap. It's all the same stuff. It's just derivative wrappers, not Bitcoin.
That's right.
They don't even look at it the same way. They don't care about the Bitcoin network. They don't think about any of this stuff.
Yeah. Additionally, you know, we see these large institutions, investment advisors have been net buying for 8 quarters in a row. Also, 60% of top US banks are building Bitcoin products. And one more, let's talk about those, because look, the focus of Bitcoin is successful here is investment advisors and top banks. So Bitcoin's supposed to be the escape from the banking institution, from the banking problem that created Bitcoin in the first place. And investment advisors, like, in my opinion, just like Phil said, like, these people don't really care about, are we saving the savings, and are we saving the freedom to act in the economy for the individuals, not the authorized participants, or the what do they call it, the highly valued
You're talking about the accredited investors.
Yes. Like, these types of people have advantages that Bitcoin wasn't created to help. So these types of things, saying Bitcoin is better because of this, I think, in my opinion, Bitcoin is flat from a valuation standpoint because of this. And I think I think a lot of this has led to the Jane Street fiasco, where Jane Street has honestly reared its ugly head in 2 different cycles. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just talking with Rourke here about Wall Street only caring about collecting fees. Can you go back to, there was another slide that you just showed? Yeah, this, right? Yeah. So yeah. So again, right? Obviously that they're building Bitcoin products, right? And okay, if you take a look at the bitcointalk.org forum, you'll see messaging from Satoshi that indicates that, of course, at some point in the future, should Bitcoin continue to grow, that banks will eventually use it for settlement. And of course, right, Bitcoin is a voluntary network, so you're not gonna, right? Bitcoin,
you can't ban banks, you can't ban governments from owning Bitcoin and using it.
So they're gonna do it, right? They're gonna use it. They're gonna do all of these things, right? But make no mistake, again, this goes back to my previous point and to Rourke's points, right? Wall Street's business and the bank's business is fees, right? Like, this is their whole, like, that's their, like, their bread and butter. So anything they do, it doesn't matter what the messaging is. It's always going to be about maintaining their own moat and ensuring their fee revenue. So, you know, it's a very interesting it's an interesting scenario that we're in, because essentially what we've learned in Bitcoin to date, right? You can create Bitcoin related products. But from what we've seen, unless you're the first mover, it's going to be a little slow, right? It's going to be a little slow. You're going to have to build trust. It doesn't, it's not just automatically conducive to success. Whereas when you build a shitcoin product out of thin air, you can just pay for all the hype and pay for all the marketing, right? As we've seen with Bitcoin, there's no marketing department. There's no company that's going to cut you a check for talking about Bitcoin. So either your product or service is valuable and it gets accepted by the market and embraced, or it's not. And that's it. So that puts these institutions, I think, in a much tougher place. I do think so, because they're not used to having to in my eyes, they're not used to having to figure out how to create something of value. You had no choice but to use them. I mean, look, for example, in Canada, you've got 5 national banks. Like out here, you have credit unions and stuff like that. Maybe there's slightly more competition in the US, but in Canada, you have 5 national banks. None of the banks give a shit how you're treated. You're not going to go to us. You're going to go to one of the other 4, but at some point, you're going to end up back at us. So you're just going to do as you're told. Okay. And this is what happens, right? You leave enough of your assets with a bank and you become hostage. And this is exactly what they want. So of course, they're going to build all of these services. They're going to say all the magic words. But at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with you.
That's right. Adoption by public companies grew by 2.5% in 2025. Look, we've talked about Bitcoin treasury companies so much over the last 12 to 15 months that I think that we know what type of public companies are buying Bitcoin. It's the ones that went down 80% in what was supposed to be the bull cycle. All of those publicly traded companies are basically bleeding in the streets, and anyone who had cash laying around during the entire 2025 can buy them at the same price that they had before Bitcoin, that they have while they have thousands of Bitcoin. So this doesn't really benefit anyone per se. I think it's just Bitcoin shifting colors of owners. Do you agree?
Yeah, but I'm sorry. Back up. I just wanted to see. Sorry, I thought it actually had the names of the companies. I'm like, no, it doesn't even say.
Not this one. No.
Oh, not this one. Okay.
No, but as you can see, known businesses holding Bitcoin treasury companies. Again, like conventional businesses, we have to admit they have grown. So that is good. Yeah. Not at the rate that the Bitcoin treasury companies have grown. And of course, we see that vertical during the 2025 timeframe where my picture cuts it off slightly. You can see, that's probably the OGs trading their Bitcoin at 100,000 for shares in these treasury companies, and then the OGs dumping the shares on the market, therefore getting their gains in a very seamless, financialized, legal sort of way. But this doesn't really bring about, I don't feel like we're closer to Bitcoin hybrid Bitcoinization, because these companies are holding Bitcoin, because these companies are skeleton companies. They're SPACs. They're ICOs to be frank.
To your point, somebody actually made this comment, and it is kind of worrying, right? You see businesses like XXI, right? 21, Jack Mahler's vehicle. They don't even put out press releases, like nothing. I mean, do they have much to say? Right? If we're being frank about it, do they really have much to say? Most likely not.
I was hoping they would be the good one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, look, okay, so how about this, right? The ones that I had hope for, okay, these are the ones that I had hope for. XXI. And when I did a little more digging into Metaplanet, I realized that they are not kicking their shareholders in the nuts as hard as other businesses were. So because they make a lot of their money from selling call options. So it's interesting. I mean, they should be making more of their money off of their hotel business, of course, right? They should be able to show revenue, but that's okay. We're not even going to get into that. Right. So yeah, like for me, but it was really, I was sitting there thinking XXI, they've got, Strike, which I know they don't own Strike yet, but mark my words. Okay. That business, XXI itself, has no revenue. So they are absolutely going to bolt Strike onto XXI. It's just going to become an immediate revenue stream. All of a sudden, now they're a business that does Bitcoin loans, that has an exchange, right? All of a sudden, I don't see that going any other way. But to me, the Bitcoin treasuries as a whole, that whole idea has been a massive disappointment. And I mean, anybody who's paid attention to our show long enough knows
I'm surprised,
right?
I asked Jimmy Song that, like, hey, do you think that the treasury companies were the ICOs, the NFTs of 2025? And I think Jimmy, who's not tied to any treasury, like he's not tied to any explicit Bitcoin shill except for shilling his own books or his software program or software teaching programs. it's like, I thought that he would be willing to like just go out and say that. Maybe he's not as edgy as the pleb underground, but I do feel like that treasury company blow up, especially when people like the BTC Inc. started doing it, and Adam Back started doing it. Like, just everyone started getting their own treasury company. I'm like, this what should have been a novelty, or what, if it was novel, maybe it was profitable, when there's only one or two Metaplan and MicroStrategy, it's starting to get a little bit saturated, and I feel like this is going to boil over real fast. And I mean, we were right on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hey, look, sometimes we got to take a lap, right? Sometimes we got to pat ourselves on the shoulders for forgetting something right. Right, forgetting something's right. But it's
we were saying we hope that y'all change course,
Yeah. That's all it is, right? And that's kind of the point of it, right? It's not about haha, they're bad and they failed. Like, that's stupid. Obviously, I don't want these businesses to fail. I want them all to go to the moon. But guess what? If you're gonna do that, you got to play by certain rules, which I know isn't always fun. But guess what? Wall Street doesn't give a shit about your Bitcoin hodler mentality, right? They don't care about my Bitcoin hodler mentality, right? Wall Street cares about boring stuff, like the numbers, like revenue, like free cash flow, like earnings per share, all of these stupid, boring things. And yes, one day it may in fact change, right? It may, right? Because like these things have not always been steady. Wall Street has added some new metrics that they found useful, right, in determining a business's health or wellness or whatever the hell it is. But we're not there, right? So trying to shoehorn this, like, stuff like the Bitcoin per share and the accretive dilution, all this crap, like, nobody was buying it. Clearly, nobody was buying it.
Yeah, I mean, they took the proof of work out of the proof of work coin. Let's just be fair, but let's just be honest. But merchant adoption, again, merchants who are proof of work. Look, I create a good, I sell you a good, I create a service, I sell you a service. That grew by 74% in 2020 and 2025, according to River, highlighting Steak and Shake, of course, as one of the more popular merchants that were adopting Bitcoin. And in this other slide over here that I don't want to, we don't need to go into the nitty gritty details, but it shows the industry breakdown by businesses on River. I guess maybe companies that work with them. So good for them. And then look, we don't want to, we already talked about Lightning last time, so I don't want to have to repeat that, but Lightning is growing. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
And I'll touch on this. The nation state adoption, let me clear this so we can see it. Nation state adoption has grown. I mean, in terms of that year, Brazil, Czech Republic, Luxembourg, Saudi Arabia, and Taiwan allegedly have some bags of Bitcoin now. And the regulatory changes in Bitcoin since 2020 have, I guess, softened. We see a lot of legalization of Bitcoin where it wasn't before. So good on the world leaders not being so oppressive to ownership. But again, at what cost? We have to realize that Bitcoin really is, because it's native to the internet, because it's native to TCP/IP. Imagine making the internet legal. Now take one step up, Bitcoin protocol on top of TCP/IP. That's how legal Bitcoin is. Just do it, man, and you'll be surprised how far you can go. Phil, your thoughts?
Do we have to copyright? Because you said just do it, and that is a Nike trademark.
Am I going to get?
Are we going to get? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally messing with you. I'm totally messing with you.
I wear all your stuff. I promise.
Come on. I like you. No. So
copyright. I think we do that all the time.
I'm just messing around though.
That's right.
It's just because you said just do it. So I'm like, are we allowed to say that? I don't know that we're allowed to actually say that.
We can say the number 8. Can we? There's so many things that are copyrighted nowadays. It's crazy.
We got to be careful. We got to be careful saying anything. But going back to the this particular slide over here. Hold on. I'm adding it to this. Okay. You got it. Okay. Yeah.
You got it. You got it. Go.
Yeah. The merchant adoption, right? That to me is a good thing. That to me is some solid signal. And the reason is that Bitcoin, Bitcoin actually is meant to be used. And again, used doesn't only mean hodling. I do consider hodling using Bitcoin.
That's
right.
right.
But I'm talking about actually using it to transact as well. And the reality is,
exchange, unit of account. Can we just get back to the fundamentals so we don't have to play all this financial engineering stuff, right?
Exactly. And if more people used Bitcoin as money, right, that would be a bigger bulk of the transactions on the Bitcoin network, right? So again, to me, that's the signal, right? The signal is the merchant adoption. The signal is also Lightning growing the way that it is. Again, I'm not pretending like, oh my gosh, guys, it's the silver bullet. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. There's trade-offs. There's trade-offs to everything, right? Lightning, for the most part, on a massive scale, is centralized, right? When I say a massive scale, I'm talking about the big Lightning providers, right? The liquidity providers. That is centralized. Absolutely. Doesn't mean that you can't run your own node and provide your own Lightning liquidity and connect to them and be able to benefit from their channels. Yes, you can. Right. So it's just like, it's not going to be one solution. It's going to be multiple solutions. And I think we're seeing it play out. And these numbers, I think, are a reflection of that.
Well said. Well said.
Thank
So we're going to get into some rough stuff. Guys.
Are we going to start drama?
Guys, I'm just going to say it right here. I believe that these people are the reasons that I'm not semi-retired.
Are we saying that they were manipulating the market? I'm not. I don't agree with that, by the way. I don't think so.
Right. So we're going to talk about Jane Street.
Yeah, we'll talk about
We're going to talk about Jane Street. We're going to talk about what they did in our pleb underground way. We're going to summarize some of the events, and we're going to talk about the byproducts and people, and also other people summarizing events. So look, did Wall Street ignite the blow up? You can see that Do Kwon was arrested because of Terra Luna. And the funny thing about this is you can see how I say it. So there's a young employee that worked with Terra Luna that moved on. Am I going to explain this? Yeah, I think I'm actually going to explain this in the next slide. So by the way, Jane Street deleting all their tweets. Jane Street, they are known as they were known for the 10 a.m. dumps. And when the lawsuit came in, the 10 a.m. dumps stopped. Albeit after the lawsuit kind of was made public a few days later, the 10 a.m. dumps started again. Is that another authorized participant pulling the Jane Street strategy? I don't know, but they didn't just go away because of the Jane Street court lawsuit. So I think this guy summarized the story pretty well. Let me see if I could find something. There's look at the top on the right side. A former Terra Luna intern named Bryce later joined Jane Street as a trader, set up a private group chat called Bryce's Secret with the Terraform team. And then on May 7th, 2022, Terraform quietly pulled $150 million in U.S. Treasuries from Curve. Or is that, yes, U.S. Treasuries from Curve. Within 10 minutes before anyone knew, a wallet linked to Jane Street dumped $85 million in U.S. Tether, I guess. What is UST? Oh, Terra. I'm sorry. Did I say Treasuries? I meant U.S. Terra. And so basically, Jane Street was involved directly, indirectly with the Terra Luna fiasco. And then you fast forward to them being an authorized participant with the Bitcoin ETFs. I think they were authorized participant with the BlackRock ETF. What you have is they seemingly were doing some trading, utilizing the information that they get from the buyers of the ETF during the market to short sell the ETFs. And so consequently, you have this selling pressure that they kind of did around the same time during the day. Phil, did I capture that pretty accurately? Is there anything you want to add on before I go on? I guess I can also talk about Jeff Park before we talk about it collectively. Jeff Park had his own spin, and he dropped this this word soup, if you will, that people are complaining is too small. But to summarize this little last paragraph, the short answer is that no authorized participant explicitly suppresses the Bitcoin price. What the authorized participant structure can suppress is the integrity of the price discovery mechanism itself. Those are not the same thing. So,
Okay.
I mean, Phil,
but that
just go ahead.
That's okay, because I talked about this during during my daily show. Absolutely, that's price suppression. I don't give a shit what words you're using.
That's right.
Okay, like it doesn't matter that he goes and he found himself a thesaurus. Like it's the same thing. Like, oh, we're suppressing. They're suppressing price discovery. Okay, yeah, that's the price. Okay,
and it's even worse because what he's saying there, and this is I think my grand theory about it, is that all our authorized participants can be complicit or guilty, or basically they hold the keys to the car to suppress anytime they want to, which is why if Jane Street isn't continuing this, the next authorized participant of any of the ETFs could be doing the exact same thing. So maybe it's the, what do you call it? The regulatory constraints that enable them to profit off of this arbitrage opportunity.
Oh, it absolutely is, because reg, what is it? Is
13F?
Or I think it's SHO or something like that. But anyways, essentially what it is that these businesses, okay, because they are authorized participants and because they are allowed to create or remove shares from the market, they do not fall under that regulation where they have to own or purchase the shares before short selling them. And it's not just Jane Street, it's Jane Street, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Macquarie Capital, and like 10 or 15 others. Okay, so it's like, how does that make any sense that you create a rule for essentially no one that is going to fall under that category? Okay, or let's just say people who can't actually cause any real harm that are going to fall under that category. And yet the businesses who are most susceptible to playing these games, which really require that regulation, they don't have to follow it because they can create or remove share. Like, this is the levels of like, excuse my language, of mindfuckery that we go through. The fact that nobody stood up and said anything at any point there, like, it just goes to show that everybody's got their hand in the cookie jar.
They made too much money to say anything.
That's what it is. It's like, I need to get paid.
Money printing.
Hey, Verhoofdy.
This was money printing, to say the least.
Purely. But
the ETF, I mean, just to conversate, the ETF, like, there are people who are coming out saying the ETF is going to ruin Bitcoin. The ETF, or price discovery, the NGU part. I can't disagree. In fact, I'm sorry. Once the ETF came out, it acted differently. It acted weird. It acted controlled. And Michael Saylor used to say this: volatility is vitality. When you have the volatility, it shows how alive an asset is. And he doesn't say that anymore, by the way. He actually says, like, and even River said, like, I didn't even show this slide, but it's becoming more stable. When it becomes more stable, it's more acceptable. It means it's establishing its presence in the market. I'm sorry, but I got into Bitcoin for its volatility. So the ETF is killing it. Over to you.
I can't disagree. I was much more hopeful for the ETFs because of the authorized participants and because of the fact that they had to purchase, because of the fact that they were supposed to purchase Bitcoin before creating shares.
That's right.
Right. I didn't realize, and that's my own naivete, that they were going to be equally, if not more crappy than other businesses, like the Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Yeah. I mean, it's pretty sad, right? That this is, they just, Wall Street just did what Wall Street does, right? So I guess I shouldn't have been disappointed. Because before the ETFs came out, I remember saying This is going to be nonsense. It's going to be bullshit. They're going to do what they always do. And then I started to read the prospectus of the ETFs. And yeah, I said, okay, these guys are not doing, they're not going to play these games entirely. And then when I saw the in-kind redemptions get passed, right, that got approved, I was, okay, then I was gung-ho. This is going to happen.
It's like almost like a true layer 2.
Like, we're going to find out who wants to take custody of Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah.
And, none of that, obviously. None of that.
The weird part about this, and it goes back to ACP's general criticism of ETFs, is that I was looking at some of these rules, and there's this rule that's categorized under 13F, which talks about it's not ETFs, it's more like just publicly traded companies. They're divulging the assets that they have bought on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis. It's probably more quarterly, because that gives people, hey, this is what I did, so people can track your progress as a public company. The problem is that if a company authorized participant buys 100,000 shares of a Bitcoin ETF, which, at 100,000, whatever that means in Bitcoin terms, but 100,000 shares in Bitcoin ETFs, they don't have to say what they're doing with it. And the reason why is because this 13F, basically, if you're shorting, you don't have to divulge that. So you buy 100,000 shares. If you're long 50,000, long 50,000, let's just say you're long 48 and short 52, you could say, hey, I bought 100,000 shares. However, you are net bearish. You don't ever have to divulge that. So when the Bitcoin podcasts come out and say, that company bought 100,000 Bitcoin, that company bought 50,000 Bitcoin, you don't know exactly what they're doing with it. That 13F is there to protect companies for their trading strategies, because that can be proprietary, and a bunch of other reasons why they're not obligated to divulge basically what side of the market they're playing on. Now, here's a solution to this, because guess what? You have to kind of plug these holes. Otherwise, there's just, in my opinion, I would think lawsuits need to start coming out from people who may have understood what the Bitcoin ETF was doing in a different way. And mind you, maybe, guess what? Maybe you just need to read the fine print and just deal with it. But I'll say that if that divulgence was made mandatory, where it's like you have to say, hey, this is what I'm doing with these shares, and you just don't get to purport yourself as bullish, so you can, guess what, get a bunch of people to buy in after you, and then you can front run the market. What that ends up doing is that gives people a little more clarity into, hey, maybe I want to buy this because I see that the market is generally 70-30. My financial advisor is 70-30. The people that I follow financially speaking is generally bullish. Or guess what? Maybe I want to stay away because all my favorite financial institutions are shorting. I don't want to touch it at all. But that information ain't out there. So again, I think what it boils down to, Phil, is that we keep on running into these roadblocks of clarity. Oh, I didn't know that we didn't have this information. Oh, I didn't know that we had that information. And those walls need to get torn down. Else, we start figuring out ways that Bitcoin can actually get captured.
Well,
from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing it. We're seeing it play out. To ACP's point, right, about the ETF suppressing price discovery. I wouldn't have said this a year ago, but we can look back in hindsight and say, yeah, I think that we got a muted bull run because of these paper products. Truthfully, I understand that some OGs got to divulge their Bitcoin, at 100K and higher, right?
But they're also walking away from when you're selling shares. 1,000.
Yeah.
When you're selling 2,000, 3,000 Bitcoin, it really doesn't matter if you're divulged or not. You're going to, they want you. Yeah. There's like, oh, sir, this way.
Yeah, exactly. You're helping us make a product out of thin air, so it's. Yeah, I definitely think that, so last cycle we got robbed with the China mining ban, and then we got robbed with FTX. And again, this is just market dynamics,
And
right?
Jane
Like
Street was
I'm not
involved
sitting
in
there.
FTX.
So I just want to, and I just want to say, like, there's no grand conspiracy,
Right.
okay? There's businesses incentivized to extract as much value as they possibly can in as short of a time as they possibly can. That's all there is. Truly, that really is what is happening. So, but I can still say it that, hey, that market was muted as a result of that activity. I can also assume that the current market that we went through to 127 also got muted by an increase in that type of activity. Granted,
it didn't get any better.
No, it didn't. It didn't actually get any better. I mean, look, Jane Street leaning on Terra Luna, right? Sure, you can say that that was maybe unethical. You could say that maybe Jane Street did something immoral. However, to a certain extent, they're going to have to battle it out in court. Yeah, they're going to have to battle it out in court. And then what they did this time, right, with the ETFs, again, they are an authorized participant who is excluded specifically from having to actually own the asset that they are shorting against. So, like, who do we have to blame, right? Who do we have to blame for that? It's just, look, this is the market, and you got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, we can only hope that hopefully there's enough powerful people who have the incentive to have bullish fervor for Bitcoin, and that they clean that up so that this type of thing wouldn't happen in the future. And in my opinion, I think right now it's still happening because from my perspective, it looks like they're printing money for free. I mean, they're riding the arbitrage wave. They made, I think they said 250 million in 3 months. I forgot the number, but it was a massive amount for them. And it's like, they made 24 billion in a single quarter in 2025. They're rolling. And why wouldn't the AP, they're all friends, say, hey, we can get a little cut of this? And even though they got the lawsuit, let's just do this right now until it's no longer legal.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle. There's no question there.
Yeah,
it really isn't. And also, not only that, but we're also seeing some other weird type of stuff, right? Where we're seeing different states, right? Obviously, like most recently, Indiana, right? They passed their strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's also Arizona. I forget who it was. It might actually be Indiana, but on one end, they're saying, hey, you can the state can own Bitcoin, or the state can own ETFs. However, by that same token, we're going to make sure that all Bitcoin ATMs are banned. Or all Bitcoin ATMs now require KYC. Specifically, right? Like that's I think I don't know if it's the HODL Depot or it might be them, or the Bitcoin Depot, but one of those ATM providers now, they don't have a choice, right? 9,000, like 8,500 locations. Boom, every single one of them. Well, the majority of them in the States. Well, they all have to be KYC'd now. So it's you can see the capture forming, right? The regulatory capture forming, and in my opinion, there is this race that no one or very few people are talking about, and it is essentially the race between Bitcoin's parallel economy, right? The Lightning Network, the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network, all of these different merchants, right? There is that happening, and then on the other side, there is the regulations as well. So again, this goes back to the whole sticking Bitcoin in the box, and that is, to me, exactly what they're trying to do. And when you do that, right, you can't make it look obvious. So you have to give people, right, the carrot on the end of the stick. So it's done in this very methodical way. And I feel like we're just going through it. So, and again, I don't think that destroys Bitcoin or anything like that, because they can't truly capture the network. However, we could be dealing with a whole lot of FUD.
Whole lot of FUD, whole lot of barriers, whole lot of hoops and hills to climb. You know, so let's talk about the engagement tonight, if you want to call it. We talk about how people engage in the space with regards to what stories they tell and how they tell and what the incentives are behind it. Look, this Jane Street thing wasn't without people that saw this as an opportunity to shill their wares, shill their services, and we have to be cautious of who we're listening to and what we're listening to. And I said this myself, and Predator echoed it as well. He probably said it around the same time as me. But it's like, watch out for AI generated Twitter essays out there, not saying that they can't be factually correct. Of course they can, but LLMs aggregating ideas in a captivating way is as simple as saying good morning nowadays, So, and here's the funny thing, like if you just dump, some of these essays that you see on Twitter into an LLM, guess what? They're going to recognize if they themselves wrote it. AI knows its own signature. So what you're seeing a lot of nowadays is, again, this future Elon news world is that a lot of people are utilizing AI to not really tell an organic story or a real story from their point of view. They're using these AI tools to churn out regurgitated basically clone AI slop type of material. And that comes with a little bit of Phil, I would say disingenuity, a little bit of you have to wonder where the baseline knowledge base is coming from, where the baseline knowledge is coming from. And so can it all be coming from the same Grok or same Chat GPT? And I just feel like it's generally bad for people who would trust something from a platform to say, oh yeah, like because I trust this platform, obviously this is good material. But this material is redundant, cloned AI slop, and we just have to be cautious of it. I mean, do you feel AI, that's kind of like the bad part of AI coming about? Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. That is definitely one of the worst things I've seen come out of AI so far. Obviously, I believe it gets worse. I just think that as AI becomes more and more capable, or as we continue to train it to become more capable to sound like a human, right? The worse the slop will get. And are you surprised? I don't think you are. I'm personally, I'm not surprised. Should we say, okay, are you disappointed? Are you disappointed that people are doing that instead of actually trying, instead of attempting to put together something that they verified themselves?
We talk about incentives.
Yeah. Look, engagement pays, right? Like I can tell you, I can tell you from experience, right? When you don't get engagement, it doesn't pay, right? Now, whether or not, whatever your goals or intentions are, that's a whole different story. But clearly it does. And none of us are better than our incentive. So if we come to a platform and our incentive is to grow our, our presence as much as possible and to maximize as much value extraction as possible, then we aren't going to look over any of those tools. We aren't going to look past any of those tools.
Right.
We're going to engage in using every single one of those tools to their maximum, whether it's rage baiting with AI slop, whatever it takes, right? And that's just it's the nature of the beast, So unfortunately now, you spend more of your time instead of actually getting informed, you spend more of your time trying to figure out if what you're reading is information. Is it credible information? Is it not? And
by the way, it goes in line it falls in line with the don't trust verify. I mean, you pick up the LA Times or the New York Times, and nowadays you can't. We've learned to not believe any of that. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, that was the way. This was just the way you understood how the world works, or 20, 30 years ago. So it's like we learned to don't trust verify them. At some point, we're going to learn how to don't trust verify these essays on Twitter, because we're going to say, and we're all going to learn how. It's like, hey, my AI tool, does this look like AI to you? Oh yeah, this is surely AI, and here's why, this and that. And here's a trick that I learned on one of the essays. Look, something about dates in AI right now is that they don't seem to understand when something happened like a day or two ago. Sometimes AI has this phenomenon where they just assume that it happened a year and 2 days ago. So when we're talking about the Jane Street stuff, let's just say the lawsuit came out on February 23rd. Let's just say an essay comes out on February 25th or 26th. The essay, if the essayist, the person using the chat GPT or Grok or whatever, is not careful, the AI will spit out February 23rd, 2025. However, and they'll say, oh yeah, that came out last year. And I'm like, oh no, it didn't. And it's not, I realized that because why? Because I was punching through queries and working with my AI, and it did the same thing with something I was looking probably at a Bitcoin price at this point 24 hours ago. And it was telling me it happened a year ago and a day. So those are the kind of things where we are going to learn to interact with this tool and to verify people's trustworthiness and validity and organic nature by learning more about what makes these tools tick.
It's an interesting world that we're entering, that we've already entered. And it's I was actually talking with one of my he's probably my best friend, childhood friend. We were talking earlier, right? And he was telling me about his kids. And he was telling me how his daughter was just, talking with, their AI at home, right? Like Alexa or whatever it is, and it was just, this normal conversation, right? That she's having with the AI. And it's me being a Gen Xer or a Zennial or whatever the hell category you want to put me in, growing up in an analog generation and having privacy, having all of these things, being able to have your memories and in your history just disappear, right? Like you have this different relationship with privacy. And to me, it's like, I look at these things and I see them just as tools. I don't think of them as friends. I don't feed them information that I, quote unquote, don't want them knowing. But these kids that are growing up with this, that have seen it from day one, it's like natural. It's completely natural to just talk to the AI, to befriend it, and all this stuff. So we're in for some really interesting times.
Now they call the babies that are, which would be alphas, maybe nicknamed them for a moment, the touchscreen generation. But we'll see what they actually. But guess what? AI came soon after that. Maybe they'll be the AI slop generation. Who knows what's going to happen? But look, we're talking about incentives. I think it's a good segue to more engagement warnings. Look, we've seen when Bitcoin yearbooks come out, like, hey, be a part of this yearbook, and it's like camaraderie in the community, and we're all in this together. The modern day yearbooks just aren't the same as the ones that were around back in like 2019, 2020. Not that I was around 2019, but the ones from back in the day, or 2022. I see this yearbook and I have to give it a little criticism. Sponsorship pennies Bitcoin, but follow Onyx AW Bitcoin mining to be included in the next one. Now, here's the funny thing. Like, why do I need to follow a mining company, to be included in this camaraderie Bitcoin thing? It just feels disingenuous. It's like, oh yeah, well, as long as you give us your engagement, we'll put you on this yearbook so you can feel special. on top of that, you have to. One thing I do like about X is that who's on. It gives a little color of who's on the other side of these Twitter accounts. And whatever this company, whatever this Twitter profile was, this mining company that's from the Philippines, they've had 7 username changes, and the last one was this month, basically February 2026. So they've only been a mining company profile for 4 weeks. It's just a little weird that, hey, they're using this Bitcoin yearbook thing as a cheap engagement shill so they can establish a foundational following so they can sell their wares. Look, being a part of the Bitcoin world has taught me to don't trust, verify more so than ever. And that's not even enough. Being a part of the pleb underground really helps you learn to do your homework and to be cautious of who wants your attention, who wants your time, energy, and money. Phil, Bitcoin yearbook pictures, profile things on Twitter just ain't the same as they used to be.
No, they sure aren't. So the only real one so far to date is Sawala, right? I believe he's out of Australia. This guy just does it out of the goodness of his heart. He does every year, like any new people that join Bitcoin Twitter. So look, I was just going over this. They claim to be a mining company, but yet their profile says tracker account for Bitcoin yearbook. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, which, I mean, they don't even have a website. So how do you...
Website, like, what kind of mining company? Let me see.
No, but how do you mine with them?
Super weird, dude.
Like, this is just sketchy as hell. Not only that, the account's been around since 2021 and it has 15 posts. 15 posts.
So they have half of that in name changes.
and all of the posts are them retweeting the updated Bitcoin yearbook.
Now they probably deleted some old posts, though. That's the thing. They probably cleared out all their posts and they rebranded their profile to whatever they're doing now, which is why it's like, which is so weird. Like, if they changed their name 2 years ago, okay, but to change your name this month, all of a sudden you're so charged to be in the community that you're going to go ahead and make a Bitcoin yearbook. And then, oh, by the way, you're sponsored by Panties Bitcoin. It's like, who's like bringing all the people, obviously a very popular account. It's just super weird. It stood out to me. And I'm like, I think we need to talk about this on the Pleb Underground, because people, we get complacent when we're in our Bitcoin community. And I think we have to be on guard with this within this environment as much so as in the fiat environment. Like, I think we're learning every day. It's not that different.
Sorry, Bitcoin Moon Guy just said, I don't see myself in the yearbook. WTF. I'm like, yeah, well, we didn't retweet the scam mining account, so that's why we're not there.
Sorry, bro.
I'm just looking at this. I think that, anyways, for whatever reason, I think it's this Ghost of Maxino account that actually owns it, because essentially all that account does is retweet this guy. Now, granted, they may have deleted a whole bunch of stuff. I have no idea, but that is just there's just so many scammers, man. It's nice find though. Nice find. It's and like, that's the other thing too, right? Like, many times, we'll get emails from quote unquote Bitcoin businesses, right? That want to promote us or something like that. And at this point, I just don't try, like, unless I know you, unless like we've had serious interactions, I just delete that stuff. I don't even, I don't even care. Like, there's no point, because really, everyone's a scammer. And I'm not saying that I'm not a scammer. I'm just saying I don't want to get scammed by those scammers in that way. Okay. I want to get scammed by my own narratives.
That's right.
So anyways, yeah.
And speaking of, narratives,
there we go.
David Bailey is, shifting his narrative to saying, hey, we all have to get into AI. AI is the digital industrialization. Look, he's super powerful, super influential. It's not surprising that he would have some people that have AI data farms that need investors. And David Bailey says it's a good idea. Look, we saw a lot of that with the Bitcoin treasury companies. He didn't do too good with regards to saying, hey, this is a great idea. Buy us. He's not, mind you, he's not telling you to buy them right now when they're 98% down. He told you to buy them when you didn't lose your money 50 times over. So it's just a very disingenuous account that the CEO of the BTC Inc. is. And, when he changes his narratives, we have to be, we should be perking our ears up from a defensive standpoint, not saying, oh, what's the next big scheme? What's the next big money move? Because you're probably not a part of it.
Yeah, you're most likely not. Before I comment on this, BTC Moon Guy is asking, is there an update? Are we going to talk about the wealth tax?
So here's the funny thing. I'm sorry to say that the wealth tax update that I thought was there was actually fake news. That in general, before we get to our final topic, to just talk about that, it's passing through their House of Reps, and I think they get to their next body of Congress, whether it's Parliament. I don't know what the hell Netherlands does, but it's past the first step of actually being adopted. So that post that we had in our summary actually ended up being fact checked.
But I just want to add to that because essentially, so they can't. The whole canceling was the misframing, right? The way that it was worded was that they've canceled it after pushback, which is totally not true. What's really going to happen? What's really going to happen is it's still going to pass through, like you said, it's going to pass through the House. It's still going to go through, but now based on the pushback, they're going to be modifying it, right? And this is exactly
that's what you were talking about.
Exactly, dude. This is
window move.
Always, man.
Finds the mean 18% unrealized capital gains. That's still a shit ton. That's going to be. It's going to hurt you.
They get you having the discussion. This is how they trap. This is how it happens all the time. It is a bullshit tactic to rope people into making decisions and then having to own up to those decisions for things they never even wanted. Because think about it, there's not a single person in the street over there in the EU that was like, man, we really need this 36% wealth tax, right? And the guy next door is like, you know what? I need to pay more taxes. I need to pay unrealized cap gain, right? The average guy, he's totally thinking, not a chance, right? It's just a bunch of regulators, a bunch of people that for some reason, as soon as they become part of the government, they check their brain out the window and decide to implant this group brain that somehow decides, oh, it's for the greater good. But the reality is, nobody's asking for that shit. So the second one of these policymakers puts this crap out there, well, now all of a sudden you have to argue with it. Well, the second you start to argue against it, well, now we can come to an agreement. Oh, now all of a sudden I'm paying tax for something I never agreed. Like it is such Operation Mindfuck. It's not even funny. And it's like we fall for it. I genuinely wish that we had, and of course it'll never happen because those people will never end up in those positions to be in those situations to say, I'm calling bullshit on you. This is insane. Right? Like, and it's just not going to happen. So, but anyways, going back to the David Bailey thing and the AI stuff. I mean, look, it doesn't, it doesn't really surprise me, that to a certain extent, he's possibly attempting to steer, and I use this word very loosely, the community. It's think of it like this also, right? You've got a bunch of Bitcoin hodlers that have a lot of resources, right?
50% less.
50% less, but still, right? Bitcoin hodlers have a lot of resources, and if you can direct some of those more resourceful Bitcoin hodlers into building out AI businesses or AI infrastructure, I mean, maybe it's not the worst thing, He's obviously pushing towards some kind of end. In my eyes, he's had some type of a conversation, or somebody has had a conversation with him, and they've put together some type of a plan.
It's
right?
just that the problem is he
who
doesn't
knows?
have a good track record of his tweets. I mean, he's starting to be like what's his name? Kramer. He's like the Bitcoin Kramer. Is that the right guy? What's his name?
Yeah.
Kramer?
Yeah,
NBC?
it's absolutely Jim Cramer. Yeah.
Jim Cramer. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, get a better track record before people start trusting you. I mean, I'm sure he's doing well for himself, but when he puts this kind of stuff out and no one else, post the date that he makes this tweet, post February 26, 2026. Okay, now whatever data farm you're alluding to, is it going to be profitable for the first movers, for the secondary movers, or are you just looking for exit liquidity for the people who already have shares or ownership of that said asset? So I don't mind. Look, I don't, like I say, I don't mind MicroStrategy. I don't mind MetaPlanet or AI data farms or Tesla. But when you're shilling it, you don't get to just have a free ride just because you say it, unless, guess what? You're actually just a commercial for the exit liquidity because people are asking you to say something so we can have someone to sell our shares to that we no longer want. We want to cash out. That's the scary part. That's what we're calling out. Let's watch them to see what happens. Yeah. So
do you think, okay, so hold on. Do you think Bitcoin is going to be used by agents? Do you actually think so? I mean, like, look, I know we reported on the open cloth thing and, that they said that, we saw that whole agent conversation, but do you really,
I don't think that Bitcoin is AI is reflective of their human authors. And right now, human authors want stable coins and dollars. That's just what it boils down to. They want things that are considered reliable. Bitcoin has been made to appear unreliable from the definition of what reliability is, stability is. So yeah, I mean, in short, I think that Bitcoin will be an interesting investment, and I think a lot Grok will say that, yeah, I think it's a digital gold that will likely grow in value over time, but that's not going to make the AI economy anytime soon over. I mean, it has to be some horrible, like the dollar has to, why would they, again, if the dollar is strong and is getting stronger, with all the things that are happening, or more reliable, or the best option out there for all, if the dollar doesn't die 25% in a day, the AI is thinking you're good. The AI is led to the AI is Keynesian by default. Inflation isn't intrinsically bad. We think that inflation is intrinsically bad. 0% inflation. That's what we think. Or money should have deflationary properties. That's what all the Bitcoiners around me think. And if they don't, then I weed them out. But the AI doesn't think like that. They think 3% is okay. So until AI changes its framing that inflation is intrinsically bad, that's intrinsically theft, it's going to continue to choose a stable state-sponsored unit of exchange.
Yeah, no, BTC Moon guy saying the dollar is not strong. I agree. I totally, I mean, I agree. Like there's a reason why we're seeing, to a certain extent, shows of force out there in the world as well, right? I think
that's a part of its strength.
Exactly, right?
And
like
means it's sovereignty. So the euro, the euro is, I can buy more euro. I can buy more with my euro than my dollar, but guess what? The people are also getting paid less euros. It's all a general, like, people in Europe aren't getting paid more than people in the United States, generally speaking. So it's like, but if you have a dollar and you have a euro, okay, now where can I go buy something all over the world? And can I buy an apple in Indonesia with a euro or a dollar? What's more likely? And it's probably more likely the dollar than the euro. That's what it's meant by strength, because it's a stable coin. Like its market cap is based on how much they print. That's beside the point.
Yeah. ACP was saying that he could see AI agents using Lightning. Yeah, I mean, again, right? This goes back to Rourke's point. AI is going to generate fees for its master, so I think it all depends on what you tell the AI to go and do. So
So do we put
Hey,
Phil C in the
Phil.
penalty box? I don't accept that answer, bro. We want to see you in the live viewers, and we can tell when you're not here because it ticks
Yeah, because he
down.
doesn't say hi. He's not here. He doesn't say hi, but now he's here. Okay. We appreciate you, Phil. Don't worry about it.
I'm just
Don't
trolling.
worry.
I'm trolling.
But yeah.
So look, I want
We're
to
gonna-
get us to our final topic, which should cover us for a while, and it's Tucker Carlson show talking to this woman, Catherine Fitt. And look, I'm just going to give my spin real quick, and then first of all, it's one of the first Tucker episodes I've ever listened to holistically. Normally, I get sound bites. Look, I'm generally conservative, but I've never cared about the Tucker guy. I've never cared about Joe Rogan. I just don't listen to these podcasters. I know they're commercials. Even when he talked about Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser, like, okay, like it's a paid advertisement. Like that's how I see these types of things. Although I generally think Tucker wants things to be better in the world. I also think, hey, he's the new Oprah Winfrey. He understands his worth, and he's going to make sure that he is compensated for the time, or he's going to talk about things that will compensate him because it's viral, or et cetera, et cetera. So this woman, 10 minutes in, she sounded like Whitney Webb. I'm like, why does she sound like Whitney Webb? I go to her website. What's Solari? What's Solari? Boom, boom, boom. Then it took me 20 seconds to find that Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin have had works on her website back in 2024. It didn't take me that much longer because guess what? One of the major things people were saying, did she talk about Bitcoin? It said 0 times. So people were saying never talked about Bitcoin. I listened to it all the way through, turned my stomach, stuff I've already heard before. It's not preaching to the choir, but it almost purposefully excluded Bitcoin. I'm like, why? I look at the website. I'm like, oh, wow. Who is this Patterson guy? Forget his name. Frank Patterson, Steve Patterson. Wow. Catherine, not Fitz. Yeah. Be nice. But it's like Steve Patterson has a presence on her page, along with them shilling the book, Hijacking Bitcoin by Roger Ver. Now, you have Roger Ver on there. You have Whitney Webb, who stopped liking Bitcoin like in 2022. And I just feel like this is another avenue of attack on Bitcoin. Everything she said, the solution, the surveillance state, the digital money, the technology, blah, blah, blah. Everything she said, there's a parallel to Bitcoin can kind of fix this or at least combat it. But when you have Roger Ver on your website, you don't want Bitcoin to succeed. Roger Ver is probably funding her, is probably giving her some money. Steve Patterson is obviously in bed with her, figuratively, pause. But
or Steve, or her. Who knows?
Wouldn't wish it on either of them. Both bad actors, in my opinion. And look, I think she's a low-key B casher. She wouldn't dare say in public. Yes.
So when I saw this, because I watched this whole interview, I did not know when I watched this whole interview, and I did find it interesting that she didn't say Bitcoin once throughout the entire episode, right? Just strictly referring to it as programmable money. Okay, always referring to it as programmable money, and then you did that awesome research and you found all the good stuff there.
Crazy.
And
I learned my research from you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it was like, damn, I'm like the Solari report. And right away I checked your link.
Knew as soon as I said that I was gonna get feedback from the audience. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep things PG, and here I am, like, guys.
Don't worry, it's an adult show. I said it at 18 years and over because I know that we can't control anything, so it's fine. But it was really interesting that she didn't say Bitcoin the whole entire time, and then of course, right, she's got the hijacking Bitcoin, an ad for the book on her site. So I mean, I thought that episode though, and that was the tweet that I put out, I'm like, it was a 2-hour long ad for Bitcoin. And it's funny because she made every effort possible not to say Bitcoin. And the other interesting thing is that obviously she spent a sizable amount of time just discussing Epstein's connection to Bitcoin and omitting I shouldn't say the most important people, but some pretty important people, like Joy Ito and like the guy who was essentially the middleman for MIT, and also the fact that Jeffrey Epstein, although he had encounters with like 2 or 3 devs, he wasn't in any way actually instrumental in anything that had to do with Bitcoin. And then on top of that, the hypocrisy to be shilling Bitcoin Cash, which is just a fork of Bitcoin with a couple of changes. Again, it's totally nonsensical. Okay. And these people don't even realize the self-own that is occurring.
You know what's very good. Funny. What's very good that because I got worried. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mark Goodwin, he's wrapped up with the B cashers, blah blah blah. But then of course it's so funny. Like he starts putting out these tweets around the same time this Catherine woman comes on the Tucker show, and it's basically kind of separating himself from anyone who would even think that Roger Ver is on the straight and narrow. So it's like, again, he wrote some stuff with them back in 2024. I don't think he's affiliated with them anymore because they have more publications and he's not in them. So good on him for moving on. And I get it. She has the website with all the like, hey, this is how you farm your you grow your own food and you protect yourself from digital apocalypse and digital dystopia. I get it, but I just feel like these types of companies, think tanks, they want to be a think tank for like a president one day, and so they have to get funding. And I just feel like Roger with his deep bags, I wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, I'll fund you, but make sure you show my book and don't promote Bitcoin because that would make me look bad. And that's what he cares about. He cares about his Bitcoin Cash project. It's very, very discomforting that we understand it, but Tucker's audience and his millions of people, they say, oh my gosh, there's no hope. We have to go back to analog and gold and coin clipping and pliers like last episode. But they don't even consider, oh yeah, Bitcoin is the Epstein coin or it's captured by the government or Trump. And they miss out on these are the people that could give them opportunities, and they've taken the quick and easy cash.
Yeah. She also wrote this other book called Narco Dollar, I think it is. That I downloaded.
Drugs, I guess a drug dollar.
Yeah. Which I mean, it kind of makes sense there's another book along the same lines called Dope Inc. And essentially, I mean, it's just see, this is the issue, right? With a lot of these people is that obviously she's extremely knowledgeable, right? Yeah. Obviously she's well spoken. And so what happens is that when you're able to pepper in real facts, verifiable facts, you give a person enough verifiable facts, and believe it or not, they'll pretty much start to take almost everything else you say at face value as a given. So that's part of a trust building exercise. So it's like, hey, this person's been right about like 70 things, like chances are they're going to be right about number 71.
That's right.
Right? They've been accurate about 70. So why would you have a reason to doubt them? Right? Why would you have, so it's like, so she was correct, let's say, in expressing how the narco dollars move around the world. Well, obviously Bitcoin is hijacked then.
Well, right? It's funny. What you're saying is like, that's
right. She did work at the Fed Reserve.
That's right. No, she
again, that's credibility building too. How would this person, right? Why would they mislead you? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, it's fine. No, but what you were saying about how you're right about 70 things, why wouldn't you be right about 71? That's actually a biblical concept. Not to get too hyper spiritual, but Satan himself understands truth and facts, and he presents them to you, but he'll twist something at the end to take away, to make his incentives, to turn you towards his incentives. So it's like that was Jesus being tempted in the wilderness by Satan. Satan was quoting the Bible to Christ while he was fasting for 40 days in the wilderness. And it's like, and Christ was rebuking him with the scripture that he left out. So it's like, not to make this a church service, but what I'm saying is like the devil will take the truth, real things, present them to you, just like Phil said, and they'll leave out the fine print. That's the critical part. So with this person, I'm not going to call her the devil, but is definitely a deceiver in that she is presenting to you a problem, and a serious problem, and all of these problems are real and near. However, by omitting what Bitcoin could possibly do, because it hasn't overtly won yet, but what it could possibly do, for her to purposefully omit that, it's disingenuous, and it's honestly living a lie.
Yeah. Yeah, really
I'm sorry. I mean, good.
No, don't apologize.
Guys, I'm at church every Sunday. You're going to get Jesus, and maybe not tonight, but maybe every other night, you know.
There's not enough spirituality out there in the world. Trust me, if there was more God, we'd probably have a whole lot less problems.
Bitcoin may have gone up a little faster.
You know, maybe the bull market wouldn't have been muted. Maybe we wouldn't have topped out at 127
in the first place.
Sorry?
Maybe we would never have needed Bitcoin in the first place.
There you go. That's the signal, right? I think that people also forget, even though we're cheering for Bitcoin to a certain extent, we're cheering for it out of necessity. So exactly, you know, so we'd love it if the system, if the people that were entrusted to run the government finances weren't scumbags and weren't printing money out of thin air and robbing the future to buy all of their fancy little trinkets today. But unfortunately, it's very difficult to, and it's interesting because Bitcoin was supposed to hijack incentives. And as we've learned, especially in the last bull market, Bitcoin actually doesn't hijack incentives. It just gives people more reason to fulfill them. So, because we just saw a whole bunch of fiat shenanigans, right? All that paper Bitcoin, all those derivatives, all that, the Bitcoin treasury stuff, guys, all that stuff is just crap.
Michael Saylor brought it up. I mean, a new form of pristine credit, right? So it's just more things to take loans out against, leverage against. Hopefully it blows up in people's face at some point when Bitcoin goes hyperbolic, goes up 30% in a day or two. We've seen it. Excuse me. We've seen it. You know, Trump elected, ETFs launched. We can only hope that, you know, some people get wrecked by playing those stupid games. And if anything's going to do it, will be Bitcoin, because it can be controlled until it's not. And when it's not, those are some damn fireworks.
Oh, I miss the fireworks to the upside. I'm tired of the fireworks to the downside. Rourke says we should blame Adam and Eve.
If Adam and Eve didn't do it, one of us would have.
You know? There was obviously a shitcoiner there in the garden. Somehow a shitcoiner got into paradise. It was up
Please
there.
Don't blame the woman. We all
No, I'm not. I'm saying there was a shitcoiner up there.
Oh,
okay. Adam and Eve were just hanging out, and all of a sudden, you know, shows up and is like, hey, want to buy this token? You know, like that's what happened. No, I'm kidding. But yeah. All right. I think that does it. Eh? That's it for us for tonight. For Bitcoin tonight, AI tonight,
Blood Moon tonight, Christ
Blood Moon tonight, Jesus tonight.
AI tonight. We got a lot of tonights, and we'll keep on having tonights every Monday night.
Ooh, unrealized cap gains tonight.
Oh, that's a horrible night.
Yeah, that Overton window. They're such fuckers. Anyways, sorry, excuse my language. It's okay. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget, I am back tomorrow, 12:10 p.m. Eastern. Already got some hopium lined up. And we are back, hopefully next week. Humble Warrior will join us. We miss her. Hopefully she will be joining us, and it will be the trio again next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. Take it easy.